My aunt tried to poison my mom. Story time. So one thing to keep in mind is that my mom and my aunt do not get along. And a few years ago, my aunt was going through some financial troubles, so she had to come live with us for a little while. And since she was going through a little bit of troubles, her and my mom came up with this deal that my aunt would just help around the house, like cook dinner, clean up, stuff like that. Well, about 2 weeks after she moved in, my mom started to become really sick. And we literally had no idea what was causing it. My mom was just having severe stomach pains. And it got so bad that my mom ended up passing out and we had to rush her to the emergency room. Well, they ended up running some tests and come to find out my mom had bleach in her system. So my dad gets angry and starts questioning my aunt, and my aunt confesses to putting bleach inside of my mom's food every time she cooked for her. It was so bad that if we waited any longer, my mom would have died.
Bestie, I have life advice for you. The best type of revenge is biding your time to put someone on the spot when they're the most comfortable they're not going to be caught. Trust me, that's a power move. Story time. I speak Spanish because I took classes in high school, but I don't look like someone who speaks Spanish because I'm not of Hispanic heritage. Went to this nail salon, I entered, and the two employees started giggling. I asked what was funny, and they said they were just so happy I'd come to the salon because they didn't get many customers. Now I understand why. I showed them an inspo picture of the nails that I wanted done, and they stared at me. And then the lady doing my nails went, "Okay, I can do that for you." Throughout the nails, she only spoke to her friend, the other nail tech, because she didn't get any more customers during that time. That kind of threw me off because I literally tried to make small talk 3 times. It was kind of awkward sitting there for 2.5 hours and hearing these women talk about me. Like, they were just full-on gossiping. At first, they said my inspo picture was really ugly, but that's an opinion, right? What they said next pissed me off. Let's call the girl who was doing my nails nail tech 1, because I'm not trying to expose people. The inspo was okay for someone with standards like me, but I got juicy revenge, like for part 2. So the nail techs are both talking smack about me. They're straight up calling me ugly, just like all these really rude things in Spanish, but they think I don't understand them. Though I was not happy because of what they were saying about me, the nails looked really good, so I waited for them to finish doing my nails before I said anything, and the whole time I kept quiet and I gave up trying to make small talk because I knew it was not going to work. Though, again, it was really awkward for me to sit there and listen to them just saying all these rude things. Like, how do you even come up with that much rude stuff to say? Maybe you should just, quit your job and, troll people online and make money off of, an account online where you, make people feel bad. That's honestly, it's not okay to do that, especially when someone's paying you for your service. Whether or not they can understand you, it just comes down to your own dignity. If you know what, I'm gonna shut up now. So basically, when they were done, I got up and I gave them cash, and the lady was like, "Why didn't I get tipped?" I responded in fluent Spanish, because dude, all that studying in high school paid off. I said, "Why were you talking behind my back?" And I ranted. They turned red and I left.
Story of the time Miley Cyrus went to my elementary school. So I was in 1st grade, and all the cool kids sat at the round table during lunch. And one of the cool kids was absent one day, so I ended up sitting there. I sat next to this girl named Riley. And over the school year, me and Riley became really close friends. One day at the lunch table, she told me she had a really, really big secret that she could only share with me and that I can't tell anybody else. She told me that she was Hannah Montana. And at first, I was a little bit confused because I saw Hannah Montana on TV and she didn't really look like her that much. But then she had told me that her hair was just a wig because her hair was blonde and her actual hair is brown. And her family told her that she had to tell everybody her name was Riley, but in reality, her name was Miley. She invited me over her house to see her walk-in closet and to also show me herself without her wig. Little 1st grade me was so hype about joining the cool table, but not only that, now I was friends with Hannah Montana. So I went to her house and then soon realized she wasn't Hannah Montana.
This is why you should never rush to conclusions. Once there was a young couple getting married. At their wedding reception, their friends decided to play a game of hide and seek with the bride and the groom. It was decided that the groom would try to find his bride and the bride would find somewhere to hide. But hours passed and the groom had searched everywhere in the venue and couldn't find where she was hiding. He assumed that she must be having second thoughts about getting married. He got mad and stormed off. Weeks went by and he accepted that she must have gone on with her life and didn't want to contact him anymore, so he did the same. A few years later, though, the cleaning lady found something horrifying. She went into the attic of the building where the reception had taken place years ago. There, she found an old trunk. She opened it and found the rotting body of the missing bride. Her face was still frozen in a scream, and inside the trunk were huge scratch marks from when she tried to get out.
My friend ate her pets. Story time. When I was in college, living in the dorms, we were not allowed to have pets. And at the time, I was friends with this girl, and we're gonna name her Vicky. And she was known for not following the rules. So one day, Vicky decides that she's gonna get some pet snails and bring them into the dorms. So she buys like 4 snails, buys them a little bowl, gets them little decorations, and sets them up inside of her room. And she was able to keep them a secret for about a month. Until one day, we had room inspections. So the RAs go around inspecting everybody's room, and then they come to mine. And while they're in my room, I text Vicky and I'm like, hey girl, they're coming to your room next. Make sure you hide your pet snails. And she texts me back and she's like, oh shoot, what am I supposed to do with them? And jokingly, I was like, eat them. They do it in France all the time. So after a while, the inspections are over and I head over to Vicky's room. And when she opened the door, she looked kind of sad. So I was like, what's wrong? Did they find your snails? And she was like, no, I ended up eating them. And I look over and their bowl is empty.
Storytime on how I was raised in a cult and I didn't know anything about it. Crazy as it sounds, yes, I left 2 years ago. And honestly, I'm still scared for my life. For personal reasons, I will not be saying what religion she grew up in. A little backstory, I'm the oldest of 3 children. I have a younger sister and a younger brother. Well, let me just tell you, I even had to ask my dad when I could go pee. Because if I didn't, I would be disobeying him. And I would be going to... Well, we lived in a small town, and my brother, my sister, and I were homeschooled by my mother. Now, my father wasn't the leader of this cult, but he was one of the very, very strong believers. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup, wasn't allowed to wear jeans, or any type of pants. Now, this wasn't part of the cult, but I wasn't even allowed to talk to girls. I had to keep to myself. Go to part 2. I was only allowed to talk to my siblings, my mom, and my dad. Well, what I didn't realize until I hit 16 was that my parents were teaching me to be a good wife. Because at that age, my dad would pick a husband for me. At 16. Now, that's when it hit me, and I said I need to escape from this. Now, I knew that was going to be very hard, but that just wasn't the life for me. And it's really sad that I didn't realize sooner. Well, one night my dad was going to a meeting, and that's the night that I decided to escape. Sadly, I couldn't take my brother or my sister. I ran away and never looked back. I got to my nearest gas station, told them if they could call 911. I explained to them what I was living. Long story short, I was sent to a women's shelter, and I've been living here for the past 2 years, hoping that my dad never finds me. Storytime on how I got food poisoning from a restaurant I worked at. For legal reasons, I will not be saying what restaurant it is. So I'm really picky with my food, and I would always either cook the food myself, or I had this one cook that I trusted. But one day I got sent to a different restaurant. Same restaurant chain, same owner, just different location. So at the end of my shift at that restaurant, I order my food. I ordered a grilled chicken sandwich, and I specifically said I wanted the chicken cooked crispy. So I got my food, and after a few bites, I see that the chicken is not cooked. Like the inside was still raw, and I had already eaten half of the sandwich. So I threw it out, and I went home. That night, I started feeling really sick. Like I can't even explain it. It's like nothing I've ever felt. But I take a Tylenol, and I go to bed. But I just cannot sleep. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I got food poisoning at the restaurant I worked at. So I just could not fall asleep. And I was tossing and turning all night. Around 6 a.m., I get up. That's the time I usually get up to get ready for work. And I kid you not, as I was in the toilet with diarrhea, my head was in a bucket throwing up. Yes, I was doing both at the same time. So I had to go to the hospital because this has never happened to me. I can't even throw up without making myself throw up. Not that I do that, but you get the point. So I got to emergency. They do some tests, and they told me I had food poisoning. So, they took care of me. I called the manager, let him know that I got food poisoning because his cook did not follow instructions. And he said he was going to talk to him. And I quit a month after that.